Sebastian Wheldon. I gotta say, and I'm gonna say it, I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna say, that kid's gonna be he's gonna be a force to be reckoned with in the near future. I mean, he already is. I think it's Formula 4 that he's running in, something or another. One of those feeder series, open wheel feeder series. The kid is good, man. He's got raw speed. He's a natural, just like his daddy. I think he's going to be every bit as good as his daddy was. And for those unfamiliar, his dad was Dan Wheldon, IndyCar legend. Sadly lost his life. That joke of a race at Las Vegas in 2011. But Seb, and I'm not sure, somebody help me out here. I don't know if Oliver's still racing or not, but I know Seb is unreal. What I saw this weekend, he said they had two races this weekend. I think one on Saturday, one on Sunday. And he sat on the pole for one. And Macau, and I can say this with complete, there's nuts falling off the tree and hitting the top of this building. I don't know if you can hear that or not. It's really distracting and really annoying. But anyways, the track officials had a really hard time getting the track cleaned up at Macau before each race. I don't know why. I don't know why they had such an issue with it. A similar thing happened in supercars this weekend. The tracks just looked awful once the next event got started after whatever wrapped up. If there was an accident, in Macau, there was accidents in basically every race that took place this weekend. It was some of those categories it was comical. I don't remember the series, but one race didn't even get a full green flag lap in. So. But anyways, the race where Seb sat on the pole, went into the first corner, track was dirty, he lost it and crashed. The second race, he started 15th. I'm not exactly sure how they figured out the starting position. I don't know if they qualified or not, but he started 15th regardless. Made his way up to 4th, and every time he had clear track, he kept knocking out fastest lap, purple laps, whatever you want to call it, lap after lap. And, they had a wreck towards the end, and it ultimately finished under caution, but he would have been on the podium had that not happened, 100%. So, I mean, he's got the raw speed. He's got the ability. I don't know how he is off track, if he's figured out how to handle the media and stuff like that, but if not, that'll come with age. I think he's like, what? He's a teenager. I don't know exactly how old he is. He's young. But all the off-track stuff, it'll come, and he's racing for Prima. And he's basically Andretti's like his talent agency, for lack of a better term. But he's going to be good, is what I'm trying to say. So keep your eye out in the future. Seb Wheldon going to pick up where his daddy left off, I believe, personally. Got a lot of things to talk about that happened this weekend. I know I brought up supercars. I'm going to talk about that absolute farce of an event this weekend. So if you enjoy listening to me ramble about motorsports, cars, anything else I feel like talking about, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, turn on notifications. It works. If you're interested in diecast cars, t-shirts, hats, auto parts, lamps, home decor, anything like that, check out our eBay. The link is in the description. We've got a little bit of everything, and add new stuff. I just bought a truckload of new tools and parts and stuff like that we're in the process of getting posted, so check that out. And we also ship internationally as well. So if you're watching this abroad, you're not in the United States, I can still hook you up. All right. Follow me on Facebook and X for more motorsports content. Those links are also in the description. Without further ado, let's get to the rest of the video. So supercars is getting down to the nitty gritty of their championship. This is the first year of the finals, and I've made it abundantly clear on several of my videos. I don't want to belabor the point that I can't stand finals or playoffs in motorsports. I think it's gimmicky, it's idiotic, and ultimately the biggest offense that it makes is that it just doesn't work. NASCAR is in the process of changing their format again. For the fourth or fifth time in the past 20 years? That's insane to me. I mean, what other sports series does that? None. And the reason being is because it just doesn't work in motorsports. It's just as simple as that. But anyways, supercars, I I don't really know what they called it. I can't remember, but I know Adelaide, the next round is like their round of 4 or something, round of 7. See, it's confusing too. Like, it's hard enough to keep up with NASCAR's playoff system, which, by the way, I don't understand every aspect of it because it's confusing as hell. But Supercars is the same way. I just don't even try to understand it because it's just, I hate it in the first place. So I'm not going to waste my time trying to figure it out. But what I do know is that the first round this weekend, if you're not familiar with Supercars, they have multiple rounds per weekend, usually. The first one this weekend, Ryan Wood sat on the pole, and his teammate Chaz Mostert started second. Well, Ryan's not in the championship picture, but Chaz is. They go off into turn 1 when they start the race, and Ryan backs off, lets Chaz have the lead, and then proceeds from that point moving forward to just be a moving chicane. And I don't even know if that's a proper term. He was all over the place, blocking everyone behind him so Chaz could get going. And by the time the Red Bulls caught up to Ryan and passed him, it was too late for them to do anything. That's not motor racing. That's a joke. That's not. I don't know, man. I really don't know how to put it any other way other than it's a joke. These guys. Usually, number one, it's a penalty to block. Okay? But apparently that was waived this weekend since it's the championship. I don't know. And then the Red Bulls. Speaking of coming from 15th, Supercars is a little different than Formula 4. Formula 4 is, or whatever it is that Seb races in, it's a feeder series. If you're pretty good, there's usually a discrepancy between like the really talented guys and then the kids who are still like wet behind the ears, learning. That's not the case in Supercars. Supercars is the top of the game, man. That's in Australia and New Zealand. That is the top motorsports category. Period. So for you to go from 15th to 2nd is in both races is kind of insane. And I watched that, and I'm talking about Will Brown. He qualified. It was so bizarre to me because during qualifying, he got out of the car during both sessions for both races before the session was up. And one of those sessions, the guys who were still out on the track on the same kind of tires that he had were going faster, than they had previously. So had he been out on the track, he wouldn't have qualified back then. It was weird. It was almost like it was. Yeah, surely to God it wasn't intentional. I would hope that it wasn't intentional, to put on some kind of show. But who knows these days, man? Like Supercars has made it clear that they care about the gimmicks and they care about attracting other, the casual viewers. I mean, this is a blueprint that NASCAR had already set up, and Supercars is following it to a T. And it's not worked out for NASCAR. There was a honeymoon period, I guess. But like NASCAR viewership numbers right now are the worst that they've been that I can remember. And so Supercars is doing the same thing, and I just don't get it. I really don't. And it's going to ultimately have the same effect. Like, you might see a boost here in the short term, but the long term is not. It's just not going to happen. People are going to get fed up with it, and they're going to get over it. So like, what's the point of the rest of the field outside of the 7 drivers in Adelaide? What's the point of them showing up and racing? Obviously other than money and stuff, but like, why as a sanctioned body, they had this whole ordeal this weekend. They were calling it like the Magnificent 7, which, by the way, is confusing to me because they're Australian. They're in Australia and New Zealand. Magnificent 7 is an American novel, movie. So I don't quite get that. Doesn't make sense. But anyways, it's not good. And then all you heard about all weekend, just like in NASCAR, was the finals. The race was secondary. The race, all it was, it served a purpose of qualifying for the final round, advancing, and getting bumped out. That's it. That's all it served a purpose for. Like, actually winning the race, who gives a crap? And that's not the way it should be. The championship should be a byproduct of the races. Okay, it shouldn't be the other way around. And the championship should play out organically based on how the season's going. I'm not a huge fan of Triple Eight racing. Y'all know that. But Brock Feeney, by all rights, unless something absolutely wild happens between now and the end of this, should be champion. And he may end up being champion with as fast as those cars are. I wouldn't doubt it. But regardless, if something happens and he loses the championship, like, it's not a good situation to put yourself in, and I don't understand. Unless, like I said previously, unless the TV companies are pushing for it, which wouldn't surprise me in the slightest bit. I gotta say this too. Why is it that motorsports abroad are better than most motorsports that we have here in America? Why is that? You know, we have some good stuff here. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that everything here is garbage. It's not. But I watched some Brazilian racing this weekend. I don't know what the cars were. I don't know if they were Sonics, Chevy Sonics. They may have been. They were Chevy hatchbacks. And my phone's dying. I don't know if you heard that or not. But anyways, it was really, really entertaining, and it was really, really good. It was raining. I don't know what circuit they were racing at, but man, I was glued to the TV. And then, excuse me, at Brands Hatch, they were racing the Ford. I don't know if you pronounce it Ford Kia. For God's sakes, I can't talk today. I'm assuming you pronounce it Ka, or you just call it the KA. Kind of like the Kia, what was it, C''D, or would it be Seed? Confusing to me, I don't know. But it was an endurance race, and that was entertaining as hell. I mean, little hatchback cars, little small things. You know, when it got dark, they had LED lights across the top of them. It was awesome. Fun to watch. Of course, I'm biased because I love European racing. I really do. Way more than American racing. I'm sorry. It's just, you know, I lived over there when I was a kid, and so I'm always going to be partial to it. You know, we have good stuff here, no doubt. Like I said, sprint car racing here is the best in the world. I know they have it in Australia. I'm pretty sure they have it in Europe. Actually, I don't really know if they have it in Europe. It would make sense if they did. But I know for a fact they have it in Australia. But it's way better here than it is anywhere else on the planet, period. And speaking of that, Kyle Larson got into an accident. I think it was this weekend. It's been all over my feed on the internet. And it's baffling to me when the media, they don't pay attention to dirt racing at all, period. Unless there's a big name that's involved. And Kyle had an accident, flipped over and crashed or whatever. And like, you read all the headlines, and they're like, Kyle Larson has a massive accident and all sort of kind of stuff. If you watch the replay, that's a dirt racing crash. That's no different than what happens every weekend. It's dirt. When you get out of shape, 9 times out of 10, you're going to flip over. That's common. But these media outlets, you can always tell the ones that don't know anything about racing, who are trying to report on it. Even some of these who have been around for a while and they claim that motorsports is their bread and butter. You know, I'm not going to mention any names. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but it won't take much thinking to figure out who I'm talking about. They just don't know what they're talking. They just don't get it. They just don't watch it, I think is really what it just boils down to. They don't watch it. They don't pay attention to it until there's a big name. And then when the big name has an accident, they're like, oh my God, it's the worst accident I've ever seen. Well, yeah, because you don't watch it. I've seen some stuff that looks absolutely horrible, and the guys get out of the car and walk away. It's just common. The accidents that hurt you in dirt cars is like what happened to Stuart Friesen this year. What took Brian Clausen's life is when you flip over or you crash or whatever, and you're sitting in the middle of the racetrack and on your side, and you get hit in either the floor below where you're sitting, or you get hit in the top of the roll cage, in Brian's case. That's the ones that get you. Or in Jason Leffler's case, when you lose control, you hit the wall with like the left front, like the car turns, you hit the wall, and then you have that rapid neck movement, because the Hans device doesn't really help you out here, it helps you out here. you know, keeps your head from snapping forward. But anyways, just wanted to go over some stuff that happened this weekend. If you enjoy listening to me ramble, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, turn on notifications. The works. Check out our eBay. The link is in the description if you're interested in diecast cars, t-shirts, hats, auto parts, basically anything. Follow me on Facebook and X for more motorsports content. Those links are in the description as well. As always, thank you guys and gals for watching. Until next time, we'll see you. God bless. Peace.